The day my life finally stopped waiting. Full story script voiceover ready. In every crowded city, there is at least one person who feels completely invisible. For Liam Carter, that person was always him. Every morning at 7:15, he took the same bus to the same office, to sit at the same desk under a flickering fluorescent light that buzzed like a tired insect. He was 28 and already felt like his life was an old, worn-out routine someone else had chosen for him. He wasn't failing. That was the problem. He was fine. Not miserable enough to break, not happy enough to feel alive, but just existing. He had a stable job at a logistics company, a small rented apartment, and a few friends who mostly talked in group chats and rarely met in person. His parents were proud that he was responsible and safe. No risks, no drama, no big mistakes. But also, no dreams. At least, that's how it felt to him. One Monday morning, as the sky threatened rain, Liam sat by the bus window and watched the city blur into grey shapes. People rushed past, holding coffee cups and umbrellas, each seemingly heading somewhere important. He touched the inside of his pocket, feeling the folded paper he kept there. It was a letter he had written to himself 3 years earlier. He had written it after his best friend Noah moved abroad and told him something Liam couldn't forget. "You're always waiting, man," Noah had said. "You're waiting for the perfect time, for permission, for a sign. One day you'll wake up and realize you waited your whole life away." That night, Liam had sat at his small desk, heart pounding, and wrote a letter to his future self. He had promised that by the time he was 28, he would stop waiting. He'd either quit his job and chase what he really wanted, or at least be brave enough to find out what that really was. 3 years passed. Nothing changed. He was 28 now. The letter sat in his pocket every day, like a tiny, silent accusation. When he reached the office that morning, the building lobby smelled faintly of cheap air freshener and coffee. He nodded to the security guard, squeezed into the elevator with 3 other tired faces, and pretended not to notice his reflection in the mirrored walls. He looked like everyone else. Shirt, slacks, eyes slightly dull. On the 8th floor, he stepped out, walked to his desk, and opened his computer. Emails, schedules. He stared at the screen as if it might suddenly show him a way out. At 9:07 a.m., his manager, Mr. Blake, appeared behind him. "Liam," he said, with his usual clipped tone, "I need the revised shipment report before lunch. And don't forget, we have the regional director visiting this afternoon. Make sure everything looks presentable." And Liam nodded. Yes, of course. As Mr. Blake walked away, Liam felt the familiar weight in his chest. Not quite fear, not quite anger, just a heavy awareness that he was trapped in a life that didn't feel like his. He opened a spreadsheet and began to type. At 10:32 a.m., a message popped up on his screen from his co-worker and closest thing to an office friend, Mia. "Mia, you look like you're trying to decode the secrets of the universe. Liam, shipment report. Blake wants it yesterday. Mia, classic Blake. Mia, coffee break in 5. I'm dying. Liam glanced at the clock. He hesitated, then replied, Liam, deal. 5 minutes later, they were in the pantry, each holding a paper cup of bad coffee that somehow tasted worse on Mondays. Mia leaned against the counter, studying him. She had a way of looking at people like she could see past their polite smiles. You're quieter than usual, she said. I'm always quiet, he replied. True, she said. But today you look like you're thinking about running away. He gave a half smile. Only in my head. Where to? She asked. He hesitated, then said, anywhere that doesn't have spreadsheets. Ah yes, she said, raising her cup. The sacred dream. They both laughed softly, but the sound faded quickly. Seriously though, she continued, if you could do anything, what would it be? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Liam stared into his coffee. He thought about the things he never said out loud, that he still loved drawing, that he used to sketch cityscapes and faces in his high school notebooks, that he once dreamed of studying art or design, of creating something that would make people feel less alone. But somewhere between graduating and needing to pay bills, that part of him had gotten buried. Doesn't matter, he said finally. Some people just don't get to do what they want. Mia frowned. Who told you that? He shrugged. Life. She tilted her head. Or maybe you told that to yourself and decided it was the truth. Before he could respond, Mr. Blake's voice echoed from the corridor. Carter, where's that report? Liam's shoulders tensed. I should go, he muttered. Mia watched him leave, a flicker of worry in her eyes. The day crawled by, full of small requests and tiny urgencies that would be forgotten by tomorrow. By late afternoon, the regional director had come and gone. Nothing remarkable happened. No one was fired. No one was promoted. The world stayed the same. At 6:10 p.m., Liam finally left the building. Outside, the sky had cleared, leaving streaks of orange and soft purple on the horizon. He walked to the bus stop, the letter still in his pocket. He could feel it pressing against his leg like a heartbeat. He sat on the bench, pulled the folded paper out, and stared at it. 3 years. 3 years of telling himself soon. He unfolded it carefully. The paper was a little worn, the ink slightly faded, but the words were still clear. Dear future me, if you're reading this, you're 28 now. Please tell me you didn't stay in the same place. Tell me you at least tried. If you haven't, then today, right now, do one brave thing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Stop waiting for your life to begin. Liam, who still believes in you, his throat tightened. He read it again and again. The bus arrived. He didn't get on. He sat there as people stepped past him, the doors hissed shut, and the bus pulled away. For a long moment, he did nothing. Then he took out his phone. He opened his email app, heart pounding, and started typing a new message. To resignation at subject. Resignation Liam Carter. He stared at the blank body of the email. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. He imagined his manager's face, his parents' disappointment, the rent he had to pay, the 100 questions with no clear answers. His hand started to shake. He deleted the subject line. In its place, he typed nothing. He locked his phone and shoved it back into his pocket. "I can't," he whispered, and for a moment he felt like a failure in front of himself. That night at home, he lay on his bed staring at the ceiling. The silence in the apartment was loud. He could hear the ticking of the cheap wall clock, the faint hum of traffic from the street, and his own thoughts arguing with each other. "You're ungrateful. Many people would kill for your stability. You're wasting your life. You know you're not happy. It's too late to start over. You're only 28. If not now, then when?" He turned on his side and reached for the sketchbook buried in his drawer. He hadn't drawn in months. When he opened it, the pages smelled faintly of paper and old ideas. He flipped through his Sketches City skylines, hands, eyes, a woman laughing, a child reaching for a balloon, strangers on a train. They were good, not perfect, not professional, but full of something real, something alive. He picked up a pencil. At first, his hand moved slowly. Lines were shaky, unconfident, but little by little, shapes began to form. A man sitting on a bench, holding a letter, watching a bus drive away. He paused. He realized he was drawing himself. He added more detail: a slight slump in the shoulders, a tight grip on the paper, eyes that looked like they were both scared and on the edge of a decision. Hours passed without him noticing. When he finally stopped, it was past midnight. He looked at the drawing and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not happiness, not exactly, but a small, fierce spark. The next morning, something changed. He still woke up at 6:30. He still made coffee. He still ironed his shirt. But when he reached the bus stop, he didn't picture himself sitting at his desk under the fading fluorescent light. He pictured the drawing from last night, the man on the bench, waiting for his own courage. As the bus approached, he did something he hadn't planned. He didn't get on. Instead, he turned around and started walking. He walked past the bus stop, past the small market, past the park where kids were already chasing each other before school. His heart was racing, his mind shouting at him, "What are you doing? You're going to be late. You can't just skip work. This is stupid." But his feet kept moving. He walked until he reached a small cafe he had always noticed but never entered. The window was filled with plants and hand-drawn signs. One of them said, "Creative Mornings. Local artists meet up every Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. He checked his phone. It was Wednesday. 8:17 a.m. His chest tightened. Coincidence? Or maybe the universe was just messing with him. He almost kept walking. Almost. Instead, he pushed the door open. A bell rang softly above his head. The cafe smelled like fresh coffee and warm bread. A few people sat around a large wooden table, flipping through sketchbooks and talking. A woman with short curly hair and paint on her fingers looked up and smiled at him. "Hey there," she said. You here for creative mornings? Liam opened his mouth. No sound came out. He could still turn around. He could still say, "Sorry, wrong place," and go to the office and pretend this morning never happened. But then he felt the folded letter in his pocket. He took a breath. "Yes," he said. His voice was quiet, but steady. I guess I am." She grinned. "Awesome. I'm Claire. Grab a seat. Do you draw or paint? Or I draw," he said. "Perfect," she replied. "We're doing a story in a sketch theme today. Everyone draws a moment that changed their life, or that they wish would change their life." Liam froze. A moment that changed his life. He slowly sat down at the table. Someone handed him a blank sheet of paper and a pencil. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He ignored it. He closed his eyes for a second and saw the bus, the bench, the letter, his own reflection in the elevator, the drawing he made last night. He started to draw. Time slipped away. He didn't know how long he'd been sketching when someone's voice broke through his focus. "That's really good," Claire said softly. He looked up. She and a few others were standing behind him, staring at his drawing. It was a scene of a man stepping out of a grey, windowless building into a world full of colour that started around his feet and spread outward. The man's face was still unsure, but his body leaned forward as if he was about to take a step. "It's about," Liam began, then stopped, searching for the words. "It's about," finally deciding not to wait anymore. Claire's eyes softened. "Did that happen to you?" He swallowed. "I think it's happening right now." One of the others, a guy with glasses and a sketchbook full of comic characters, said, "Have you ever thought about doing this? More seriously?" Liam laughed nervously. "No. I mean, yes. I mean, I don't know." Claire pulled out her phone. "We run a small online zine where we feature local artists. We're also working on a community project, illustrations and short stories about everyday courage. Your style would fit perfectly." He blinked. "Really, really," she said. "If you're willing, we'd love to feature your work, and maybe your story, too." His heart hammered in his chest. He heard all the usual voices in his head. "It's not stable. It's not realistic. You're not good enough," but they were quieter this time. For the first time, another voice was louder. "What if this is the beginning you keep waiting for?" He nodded slowly. "I'd like that." By the time he left the cafe, it was almost noon. He stepped outside into the sunlight, blinking like someone seeing color for the first time. His phone buzzed again and again. Missed calls, messages from his manager. "Blake, where are you? Blake, this is unacceptable. Blake, call me immediately." He stared at the screen. His hands still trembled, but this time it wasn't from fear, it was from the weight of a choice. He opened his email app. He started a new message. To Blake at subject resignation. "Liam Carter, dear Mr. Blake, I'm writing to formally resign from my position, effective 2 weeks from today." I'm grateful for the opportunities I've had here, but it's time for me to pursue a different path. Sincerely, Liam Carter. He read it 3 times. Then he hit send. The moment the email left his outbox, his heart felt like it had dropped and taken flight at the same time. Was he terrified? Yes. Did he know exactly what would happen next? Not at all. But for the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was watching his life from the outside. He felt like he was actually in it. That evening, he sat at his small desk again. The same apartment, the same walls, but everything looked a little different. He opened a new sketchbook and wrote on the first page, "Day 1, no more waiting." He started brainstorming ideas for illustrations, stories, collaborations. He made a list of things he needed to learn: digital art tools, online portfolios, freelance basics. He messaged Noah and told him everything. Noah replied within minutes. "I'm proud of you, Marin. This is the you I always knew was there." His parents were confused when he told them later, worried, afraid for him. But as he spoke, they saw something in his eyes they hadn't seen in years. A quiet, steady fire. And slowly, hesitantly, they began to understand. It didn't become a perfect success story overnight. Some days, Liam doubted himself so much that he could barely pick up a pencil. Some weeks, money was tight. Some nights, he lay awake staring at the ceiling again, wondering if he'd made a huge mistake. But every morning, when he reached for his sketchbook, he knew one thing for sure. He was no longer waiting for his life to begin. He was living it, one drawing at a time, one small, brave step after another. And that, he realized, was what courage really looked like. Not a single, dramatic moment, but choosing every day not to go back to the life that made him feel invisible. Somewhere in the city, on a bus passing the old office, someone sat by the window and wondered if there was more to life than the next email, the next meeting, the next Monday. Maybe one day they'd find a letter in their pocket, or a sketchbook, or a dream they'd buried, and finally decide, today is the day my life stops waiting. And when they did, they'd join a quiet, invisible army of people like Liam. People who were done watching their lives from the sidelines. People who had finally taken the first step into their own story.